Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365. Just 25 days away from the Eagles reporting a training camp, 26 days away until they're on the football field. Johnny Mack, it's moving right along here in the offseason. I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here on a Football Friday with us. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. Give us follows on X at Zander Krause and at JF McMullen. We are live every single day, 8 to 10 a.m., talking Philadelphia Eagles with you guys. And as John pointed out, we do have training camp coming up. We might have a little bit of a different schedule at that time of the year with training camp. Hot days mean they move schedule practice to the morning. Means Johnny Mack goes to the NovaCare complex. We would do the shows later in the day at that point. So we'll keep you guys posted on all of that. John, we've had a great week this week, man. A lot of good topics, a lot of great discussions about different players. We had Antoine Powell-Ryland. We talked AJ, N'Kobe, Ty Robinson. We followed the top 25.
Thomas Booker.
We've discussed a lot of
Taylor Morin.
Taylor Morin got some mentions this week. That's correct. So we had a good week of shows here on Birds 365. I want to close it out strong with a strong part of the team, and that was Zack Baun last year. John, coming off a 2024 breakout season, which I think is putting it mildly, 151 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, first team All-Pro. How does Zack Baun define success for 2025 beyond repeating the stats, which is something that you hate, which I understand?
Yeah. Well, I don't think you can repeat the stats. So to me, there's different levels of it. Like, how does he live up to the expectations inside the building versus outside the building to make it simple? But I think it's easier inside the building than outside the building because everybody will want replication of the stats. Same thing with Saquon. I just talked about what is the difference between Zack Baun to that defense and Saquon Barkley to that offense, other than splashier skill position stats. They're both top 5 MVP candidates. They're both first team All-Pros. They were both the Eagles only had 2 first team All-Pros last year. Saquon Barkley and Zack Baun.
Yeah.
He was the Saquon Barkley of the defense. And I say the same thing about what we talked about Saquon earlier with the touches, 482 touches. That's one thing we've talked so much about the uncertainty, and particularly on the defense, about replacing guys that are gone. You haven't talked about the regression to the mean likely coming at the 2 best players on the Philadelphia Eagles last year, at least from a, honor standpoint, first team All-Pros. The likelihood, I don't know why this upsets people, the likelihood is that Saquon's not going to rush for 2,504 yards again. The likelihood is Zack Baun isn't going to make all these splash plays. Doesn't mean they're not going to be, in Zach's case, number 1, if you go by PFF, over Fred Warner. Doesn't mean he can't be number 1 again. But it means he's going to probably do it a little bit of a different way. Then if you factor in he might have to play middle linebacker for a longer period of time, that'll make it more difficult as well until N'Kobe comes back, if Trotter can't handle that role. But it doesn't mean he's not going to be a really good player. And that's why the Eagles paid him, because they think he's going to be a really good player. How others take it, that's tough to determine, because they're going to expect what they expect, and they expect what they saw last year. And it's going to be difficult to replicate that. It just is.
In large part, do you think the Eagles are expecting that too? I mean, they did dole out the big contract.
Not numbers.
Yeah, I'm not talking about numbers. I don't care about the numbers.
They expect him to be a very, one of the best linebackers in football. That's their expectation.
Right. Well, that's my expectation too. Take the numbers, put them in the trash can. I want you to be one of the best linebackers in football. Exactly. Whatever numbers come with that, I'm good with.
And that's their philosophy. That's why I said it's different than outside the building.
Well, what do you think the arrival of Jahad Campbell, Munden, Trotter, Dean? What do you think the arrival of really Campbell, most importantly? How do you think that changes what Baun's role will be this year, or does it not change at all? I mean, we've talked about some of the unique packages that they could use. Maybe considering using them like a Swiss Army knife or occasional edge, or all those different things we've talked about. How do you think his role could change this year? With some of those players.
Well, as Vic already on record, that depends on the other guys. If Nakobe's here and healthy, he's weak side linebacker. He does what he does last year,
right?
But he's not going to be healthy, at least. And Vic's phrasing was for whatever significant, paraphrasing, long period of time. It's going to be a while, is what Vic said. Actually, is that half the season? Maybe. Is it more? Maybe. Jahad, what's he going to do? Who knows? Same thing. To a lesser degree, he'll be back much sooner than Nakobe. At least that's the early projection. And he should be ready to practice at some point in August. But where does that leave him as far as being able to take over a role? It depends on the other guys. Zack is going to play very similar to what he said about Cooper. Where's Cooper going to play? And when Vic brought up safety, and everybody's like, safety? Vic said, it depends on the other guys. If Ringo settles in, if Makuba settles in, he's going to be the slot corner. But if they don't,
nothing's off the table.
Yeah. Same thing with Zack. If Trotter settles in as the middle linebacker, then it's simple. But if he doesn't, then they're just kind of putting it together and cobbling it together and having Trotter play the weak side until Campbell's healthy. Then he's got to do something different. And then until Nakobe comes back, whenever that might be. So it's wholly dependent on the other guys, not Zack Baun. They know Zack Baun can play either spot at a highly effective level. It depends on the other guys.
What changes for Zack coming into the year, John? And what I mean by that is last year when Zack Baun was signed, nobody had expectations for him. He didn't have expectations for himself. He laughed at the Pro Bowl incentive. Now, you're coming in, you got increased expectations. You're a contracted cornerstone, a centerpiece of the top-tier linebacking core that is the Philadelphia Eagles. Another thing that I think is a factor, and it might not be a big factor, but something I think about is like that was his first time not only being great, but playing that position. Like if I go and we talked about Aaron Donald a little bit earlier in this show. Like in the offseason, that Aaron Donald knows how to work out. Right? Like he's been doing this. That. Fred Warner. I know Fred Warner knows what he has to do to get his body ready to play at a high level because he's done it his whole life. Zack Baun, that's his first year doing that. First year. How do you think all that changes with the increased expectations, with the increased pressure, and really just the increased importance of what he is to the defense? He's now the guy they're relying on versus a guy they're hoping pans out.
Yeah, I don't think the standpoint of him from a physical. In fact, we had a little back and forth that was kind of funny because I brought that up to him early in the season. I think it was by week 4 or week 5, really early in the season, where he surpassed his career high for snaps. He didn't play a lot in New Orleans, and he was like, he didn't even know it. And he was like, "Are you worried about me?" He's like he's in great shape. He's not worried about playing. And he ended up playing 1,204 snaps.
Whew! It's a lot of snaps, J-Mac.
But that's what being a 3-down linebacker is. You never come off the field.
Well, what percentage of snaps was that? 98? I mean, holy crap.
Probably everybody sat in week 18. It would have been near.
True.
He's the guy who never left the field. He was the dime linebacker. When they only have one linebacker on the field, he was the guy. He never left the field and never did that before, but that was not an issue.
No concern about that moving forward, like you would be about like a Saquon Barkley?
No. Other than the injury standpoint, but
you can't legislate that. I didn't mean it in that.
He's got no tread off the. I mean, he's barely played, like I said. So he doesn't have, like, Saquon's got years and years of difficult touches with a bullshit team on his odometer before he even got to Philadelphia. Like, Zach was, he played in the league for 4 years, but didn't play significant snaps. So there wasn't as many miles on the odometer. So other than the normal wear and tear of an NFL season, I mean, if you get banged up, you get banged up. Whereas, Saquon's a different animal. I mean, think about the difficulty of those touches with the New York Giants and the punishment he was taking. I mean, that is a bad football team. To the point where they convinced me, well, how good could Saquon be? Because I saw Adrian Peterson at the height of his career on some bad football teams, and he found a way to produce not that Saquon didn't produce, but in the case of AP at a ridiculous level on some, with some bad quarterbacks and average offensive lines. And that was one of my questions with Saquon. I said, well, if he's really that good, that would have shown up. But that's how bad the Giants were. But anyway, that's a long story short to say, here's where we are. 1,546 carries. Add 321 receptions to that. So you're at 1,870 basically. 109 more rushing attempts in the playoffs. Only 1 year in New York, obviously. So that puts you and then 20 more catches in the playoffs. Almost 2,000 touches in his career.
Yeah.
Like, his odometer was strained from
way
New York.
Way more.
Whereas Zach barely played. So, it's a bigger concern with Saquon from that perspective.
Much bigger jump, though, by Baun. I guess you could wonder whether he's built to handle it at a longer period of time versus Saquon is used to getting touches a lot every single year, regardless of the efficacy of those touches.
Yeah, there is something to being able to take punishment, but I've seen no evidence that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think so either. I just wonder. Yeah, I do think it's a
big quarterback. There are quarterbacks who play every week and just they're there every week and you can count on them. And often, Zach Ertz is the first one who told me. He's not the first one to say it, but first one I heard say it. He said, the injury rate in the NFL is 100%. If you play long enough, you're going to get hurt. Kirk Cousins is a guy who just played and played and played and played and played and played and played, and then he tore his Achilles when he was 35 or whatever. Eventually, it gets everybody. But then look at that year. Then the backup comes in and gets hurt. And then the backup to the backup comes in and gets hurt. Those guys aren't used to playing. That dude took so much punishment.
Yep.
But showed up every week. So there's something to, I call it the callous hands effect. If you go work on the docks today, I can't work on the docks today. You got to
Right.
build yourself up to be able to handle it. Same thing with the NFL. You got to build
It's a good
yourself up.
analogy. Yeah, the callus effect. Yep.
You got to build yourself up to handle NFL punishment. And that's why you see it so much. Most high profile would be quarterback, where guys play Brett Favre and plays and plays and plays and plays. And then the backup has to come in. He gets hurt right away. And you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, right. Last question on Baun, John. We're running out of time here. How much do you think, if any, the loss of Milton Williams and Josh Sweat means for Zack Baun? Will that impact his play?
Yeah, probably. I mean, defensive tackles always impact linebackers. And that's why you hear Zack Baun and N'Kobe talk so glowingly about Jordan Davis.
Right.
Yeah,
I forget the one quote Baun had one time. It was basically like, if you want to know how I'm playing, or if you want to know whether I'm doing good or something like that, look at Jordan Davis.
Yeah, if you want to know,
I don't know exactly what the quote was, but
if you want to, I think he said, if you want to know how Jordan Davis is playing, look at how I'm playing.
That's what it was. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the D tackles do. Especially in run support, their job is to tie up blockers so the linebackers can flow to the football unabated. And the more you do that, the better the linebackers are. Football is such a complimentary game. We always talk about complimentary football. It's such a complimentary game. That's why I'm like, no offense, and I forget who did that, but more so with quarterbacks than I talk all about the time. But the ring stuff drives me insane. Well, what if Carter gets 2 more rings was the question today. Fucking great now.
Yeah, right.
That's just an accomplishment, what Bick said. Well, you need a lot of people to accomplish that. You don't do it by yourself.
No doubt about it. Johnny Mac, great stuff there on Zack Baun. Great segment and a great show today. All right, top 10 Eagles we hit that you covered. We hit on the collusion case a little bit, or lack thereof. Zack Baun segment, and we hit on more with Jomo as the top 25 Eagles player. We got one super chat here to go that we'll hit on in the last couple of minutes here on the show. Appreciate everybody for being here. The switch on YouTube, we talked about it a little bit earlier. You guys all got usernames now. There's no longer just names. So, Abe, I see you switched yours. Abe JC Twin. You're not calling yourself Jalen Carter's twin, are you, Abe? I might have to shred you for that one, my brother, if that's what you're doing there. But let's get to our super chat to close out the show. And it's none other than B Pumper. That's the username Brian Pumper went with. B Pumper. I love it, Brian Pumper. He says, good morning, fellas. What a great day 2 in the draft. Goodbye to that old geezer Joel Embiid, and welcome to the broom room. Day 1 was a dud.
Yeah, well, not for
who'd they select? They selected Johnny Broom in the 2nd round. Oh, he's an Auburn guy.
Yeah, Auburn. He was an All-American. That tells you what college basketball means. But he's one of the best players in college basketball last year. But well, the Sixers need big guys, because their big guy might play 5 games, 10 games, 20 games, at best 60 games, maybe none at all. So they need big bodies. So it's a worthwhile draft pick. Worthwhile throw the dart at the board. But yeah, Pumper was a big Bailey guy. So I guess he's a big Jazz fan now.
Pumper, is that true? You're rooting for the Jazz now with Ace Bailey. That dude's got a stink face like I've never seen before, man. I don't get how anybody's excited about getting that dude. The Broom Room. I like that name, though. Pumper's always got good names, man.
Yeah. Sixers are the Sixers, though. They'll screw it up. They can't not screw it up until they move on from Joel Embiid. I mean,
how about move on from Daryl Morey? That would be my take.
Well, I think it's more important. I think it's more important to get players. So I'm not gonna. I don't think he's done a great job. I think he's better.
He drafts well. I'll give him that.
I think he's better than Sam Hinkie. I don't think he's done a great job. But what can you do? You can't get out of it.
Yeah, how many new contracts has he given Embiid though since he's been here? John?
Well, that part.
I feel like every time I turned around, Embiid got a new extension. I'm like, how many extensions does this guy need?
Somebody had to show the courage to say this is not working. We had to move on. Addition by subtraction. But they didn't have the courage to do that because he was still playing 45, 50 games, and he's ultra talented. And nobody had the courage when he still had some value to say, all right, this is not working. We got to take a step back. We got to go in a different direction. Nobody had the courage to do that. Now he's untradeable because nobody believes he can play. He's going to be healthy, and his age and the money. And they're stuck.
Johnny Mac, good stuff today. We're wrapping up a Football Friday edition of Birds 365. A great week of shows, guys. Just 25 days until the Eagles report to camp, man. It's coming quick. I promise you all, it's coming quick. So get ready. John, take that honey-do list out after the show and just start making check marks, Johnny Mac. Come on, man.
I'd say everybody have a good weekend. I dread the weekends because work is like a respite for me.
Yeah, right. I hear you. I know what you mean. Wife's putting you through the ringer. You got a lot of stuff to do, but we will not disrespect the great Mrs. McMullen here on Birds 365. John, you got work to do for Mrs. McMullen, and you'll have to do that this weekend, my friend.
Yeah, unfortunately. All right. Hopefully I'll get through it. Hopefully.
Your final thoughts, John, today on the show. We had a good show, man. Top 10 Eagles we covered. We hit on more with Jomo, collusion, Baun, and then we close it out with a little bit of room from the.
It's always good to have a little collision talk. Next week we'll have more players to talk about because it continues over at Eagles on SI. So we'll get through 18 today, 17 tomorrow, 16 Sunday, and Monday we'll have 15. So we'll have a bunch of players. And this was the demarcation line. This is where you get to.
Yeah, we might have to go 2 at a time. We might have to go 2 on Monday and separate 2 for Tuesday too.
The proven commodities for the most part.
This is where it gets harder on you and Ed. I mean, you guys got to make your picks right. I mean,
there's we just talked about the guy. I will say this because I'm not going to give away spots, but we just talked about the guy that had the biggest gap between us, Zack Baun, between Ed and I. The biggest gap on our list.
He was the biggest gap.
Yes.
Where did Ed have this guy?
Yeah, well, when you have a problem, and you'll have a problem where Zack Baun leaves off, you blame Ed. I'll tell you that right now.
So any Zack Baun slander that could be coming next week on the show, say it for John McMullen. Keep it out of John's inbox and send it to Ed Kratz. All right, I'll drop you his email down below. I'm just kidding. Johnny Mac, great show, brother. Appreciate you doing it again this week. As we inch closer to the year, we're looking forward to another week of shows next week, and we'll catch you on a Monday edition, brother, of Birds 365. Great job today, my friend.
All right, thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
You too, Johnny Mac. Thank you, brother. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen here on Birds 365. Great show today, everybody. Great week of shows all week here on Birds 365. Some great topics that we hit on all week long. Some good topics, a lot of debate, a lot of good questions about each topic that we had. So a great week of shows. I enjoyed it, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it as well. What's up, everybody? I'll do a little bit of Zander time. I do have to run today. I got some places to be this afternoon and places that I cannot reveal on the air. Okay, so I will not be telling you what the afternoon or midday plans are for me, but just know it's somewhere important. All right, so I'll keep you guys posted on that. Some more updates coming for you. I'll take a couple of comments right now from the great people. By the way, did you guys notice this legendary Kango t-shirt I'm rocking? So since I've been buying Kangos, I've been wanting them to release t-shirts because I wear t-shirts on the shows. All right. Now they've officially released some t-shirts. Check this thing out. Look at that Kango. It's a bucket hat Kango logo. All right. Established in 1938. Ready? Look at the back. Look at the back. It's all the Kangos. You see that? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Imagine thinking I wouldn't check out on a bunch of Kango t-shirts. You're insane. All right. Yeah, shirt is sick. Shirt is sick. All right. Broke out the red Kango to match it today. You know, I mean, we're living good over here. We're living good over here, everybody. How's everybody doing here? Brian says you're shortening my dump time and you can't tell us why. Brian, I got a place to be, brother. I don't know what the heck that means. Dope shirt. Thanks, Abe. They should give you a free t-shirt for all you buy. Kevin, I think they should sponsor the show is what they should do. Xander going to an eyes wide shut party. Brian, I don't even know what that means. Meeting with Bob Lang. Bob Lang doesn't want to meet with me. He doesn't like me very much. That's all right. That's all right, Bob Lang. Kimberly, congratulations, Kimberly. She says, Keith, I got like 10 of them, dude. I got like 10 of them. I got a bunch of them. They got a bunch of different styles. Keith, I got the email. They weren't even listed on the site yet. I'm like, oh, these are going to sell out. Let me grab these. I mean, it was like instant.